court judges that have put a stop on them are district court judges that are Republican appointed, and some of whom have been appointed by Trump himself, who've said that these are blatantly unconstitutional and un-American.
Hey, Mark, you mentioned in response to my question to you earlier, you mentioned Justice Amy Coney Barrett having blinders on. And I just want to point something out that I don't know if folks have picked up on this or even know about this, but Justice Barrett gets personal going after Justice Jackson's dissent. And I want to, let me read you this from this story, or from her dissent. We will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution itself, wrote Barrett. We observe only this: Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. All right, Mark, look, this seems to me, when I read this, it seems to me that the comity that we have long known about the Supreme Court is gone. Like, the gloves are off when they're getting this seems to be a very personal response from one justice to another. Or am I reading too much into it?
It's very personal, and I think it's extraordinarily disrespectful and inappropriate from Justice Barrett, who touts herself as being collegial and professorial, but in this case clearly felt wounded by Justice Jackson's critiques. I think Jackson's blows clearly landed here. And Barrett responded with what I do agree is a far too personal retort that accuses Justice Jackson of not really being smart enough, I think, to levy a strong criticism of her opinion. That's totally out of bounds. It's highly unusual. Even when the justices disagree, they usually do so respectfully. And here, Barrett is going much further. And I think the reason why is really obvious, right? Justice Jackson's dissent is one of the sharpest, fiercest, most blunt dissents we've ever seen. She is taking on the Supreme Court as an institution in the conservative supermajority. It's one of several dissents she published this term where she accused the supermajority on the right of bias toward the Trump administration, of surrendering the rule of law so that Trump can rule like a king, of essentially degrading our constitutional democracy and turning it into a monarchy that Trump can rule by himself. And she's saying not just that the majority is doing this by accident, that it's stumbling into this, but that it's doing it on purpose, because this is how the majority sees the country, that they really believe Trump should rule it with no limits. And, you know, I think after this decision, it's kind of hard to argue with that, right? Yeah, the majority sees a policy that is so patently unconstitutional, and rather than understand that that's the emergency that courts need to address, it turns around and smacks down the lower courts and says, you went too far. So Jackson's criticism there was entirely appropriate, and for Justice Barrett to act so wounded and respond so personally is really out of bounds, disrespectful, and arrogant.
You know, the Supreme Court Justice Jackson, in her dissents, all dissents are written for history, but certainly hers surely are. Mark Joseph Stern, Michelle Goodwin, thank you both very much for coming to the weekend. Still to come, birthright battle. New Jersey Attorney General Matt Platkin joins us next on how he's helping lead the fight against the Trump administration.